What's cooking good looking?
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome to my weird house. What can I do you for?
I just had to come see you about my feet. They're,
Flat.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
Really?
Whoa.
What do I have to do?
You have to go to the real world. You can go back to your regular life and forget any of this ever happened. Or you can know the truth about the universe.
The first one, the high heel.
No. We'll do a redo. You're supposed to want to know.
And that is a clip from Barbie, as I think you probably realized. And I'm delighted to say its director and co-writer, Greta Gerwig, is with us. Hello, Greta.
Hello.
How are you feeling now that all your work is done and it's about to be unleashed? You've been working on this for a while. Are you nervous? Are you anxious?
Yes, I'm extremely nervous and extremely anxious. I'm also grateful. It's been really just a joy to bring it to people and sit. I sat with the audience a few nights ago in Los Angeles, and it just, we made it for people, so we want it to be in cinemas. But at the same time, it's you're letting go of something. It's not mine anymore. I also can't control it anymore, which is very difficult for me. But I'm excited, but I'm also anxious.
And does the story start with Margot Robbie approaching you? Is that the beginning of your involvement?
Yes, she approached me as a writer, and then I brought on Noah Baumbach, who's my partner in life and art. And so initially it was a writing project. And
what did she say?
She said, my company and Warner Brothers, we have the rights to Barbie. They'd like to make it into a movie. Do you want to write it? And I guess I said yes. It's actually hard to remember now because I had a newborn baby when that started, and I have a newborn baby again now. And it's very hard to construct your mindset in the 2 months after having a baby. You're sort of like, I don't know what I was thinking exactly, but something in me thought it might be interesting. And
so there wasn't a story. She didn't come to you with a story.
No,
she said, let's begin at the beginning. It's Barbie.
She said, it's Barbie. What do you want to do? And I said, give me about a year and I'll think of something.
And so that seems like it's quite a jump from Little Women. And one of the things that's come up a lot in all the movies that we're talking about is lockdown and COVID and the effect of that on film production, but also in story writing. Because if I've got this right, you and Noah wrote this during lockdown.
We did, yeah.
Do you think that's obvious when we go and see the movie?
I don't think it's obvious in any sort of
Is it more unhinged, I guess, is what I'm
Yes,
thinking.
well, it definitely is more unhinged, but I don't think it's, I think as soon as you say it, when you see the movie, you're like, oh, I could see why that was the case. I mean, I think a lot of it is just what I was sort of saying at the top was we missed going to the movie theater. We love going to the movie theater. And I think part of it was fueled by this sense of, well, if we ever get back there, let's just do the craziest, most outrageous thing we can think of. And I think it freed us up too, because, nothing was getting made for a moment. Nothing was being released. And everybody's sort of response of like, well, they'll never let you make this. And I was like, well, they're already not making movies. Why don't they not make this one too? And that was kind of allowed us to be anarchic and wild.
And at what stage did you think, I want to direct this? Fine, I can write it, but really, this is my film.
After the script was written. I mean, for me, once we had the script, that was when I wanted to direct it. Because for me, I think the idea of directing a Barbie movie wasn't that interesting to me. It was directing this Barbie movie. And it made it very simple in a way, because if they didn't want to do it, then I didn't need to make a Barbie movie. So I felt less pressure maybe than you might if you really wanted to just do any Barbie movie. But when it came down to changing stuff or making things different, it was really like, well, I don't need to do this. If you don't want to do it this way, I don't have any interest in it. And so that was kind of it. I think it emboldened everybody.
And I'm intrigued as to, obviously you can't, give anything away, but the conversations with Mattel, because obviously Barbie's owned by Mattel.
Yeah.
Mattel come out of this not very well, really. And I wonder if the Lego movie was kind of like a touchstone here, you could just say, we are going to make fun of you. We are going to point out the kind of uncomfortableness of some of Barbie's history.
Right.
You got to go along with that.
Yes, they definitely had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I'd say. But the proof is in the pudding. They did it. But I think it took a minute to wrap their heads around it. But I think we just felt like the fact that it is a doll made by a corporation and that it's a doll with this complex history, if we deny that, then what are we doing?
And when you say complex history, what do you mean?
Well, I mean the sort of history of Barbie where, Barbie, if she were a real woman, couldn't stand up, because physically it would be impossible. And so we're holding her up to be a physical ideal, and yet she would be completely non-functional as a human being. I think that is sort of the initial kind of seed of the complaint about Barbie. And then, sometimes she's been ahead of culture and sometimes she's been behind culture. I think that that's what made her so fascinating is that, she went to the moon before women could have credit cards. But, she also is embodied in proportions that are physically unsustainable.
As part of explaining the story, there's just one scene which actually isn't fundamental to the story, but I wonder if it explains what you're trying to do. There's a scene when Barbie has left Barbie Land, which is sort of like a Garden of Eden, really. Yeah. And you've gone to Venice Beach, which is probably like the most Barbie kind of place that you could think of. And she finds herself looking at an old woman, or an older woman, which she hasn't seen before. Yes. Can you just explain that scene and why it was important?
Yeah, well, she looks at a woman who is actually a friend of mine, a brilliant costumer, Anne Roth. I think she was 91 when we shot that. And she's looking great. And she was a costumer of such, she did the costumes for Midnight Cowboy and Clute. She's the legend. I think she's one of the oldest people to ever win an Oscar recently. Anyway, she's fabulous, and I had to really promise to have a lot of martinis with her to get her to do this movie. But, Barbie's sort of looking around at the world and then looks at her and takes her in, and she's never seen aging before, and she's struck by her, and she says, "You're so beautiful." And Anne, as this woman says, "I know it." And it's such a wonderful moment because, A, Anne is fabulous, and B, is just this kind of connection through time. And I think one thing I'm always interested in as a filmmaker is women talking to each other through generations. I think that's fascinating to me. And then, it's this first glimmer of humanity, of with idealization of, a kind of this is the ideal way that someone looks or is, or even with optimization of we're going to make you better, stronger, faster. There's kind of this hysteria around maximizing everything. And I think sometimes the part where you age or things break down isn't without its own beauty. I always think of the paintings that, Monet made when his sight was going, and unbelievably beautiful. So I don't know that everything always has to be optimized.
Was it always going to be Ryan Gosling for Ken?
Always it was going to be Ryan Gosling. There was no other person. It was written for him. I don't think he believed me when I first told him that. I think he thought that was just a thing I was saying, but it was true. I couldn't imagine anyone else.
He's very funny.
He's incredible.
I didn't realize quite how funny he could be.
I actually did somehow. I don't know why I knew that. He's been very funny. He hosted SNL a few times. And I thought, he's a secret funny person.
Who's your target audience, do you think?
I'd like everyone to be my target audience.
I was struck. We had an email on the program from a father who'd taken his 6-year-old daughter to see Elemental, the new Pixar film. And a trailer came up for your movie, which had some of the beach jokes in there, and he thought, okay, well, it's not for her. Right. Well, I think I would say that there's definitely a lot of different jokes that cut in a lot of different directions. There's nothing that's, scandalous. I also think, I have a 13-year-old stepson, and I've been watching movies with him for a long time, and he has certainly seen lots of cities destroyed and lots of superhero movies, and I figure if you can watch a city destroyed, you can certainly hear some jokes. Yeah. Can I ask you about the strikes, because
Sure.
you're a union member, and
Yeah.
the Screen Actors, as we speak, the
Yeah.
Screen Actors Guild are on strike, the writers are on strike. I was wondering quite whether all the promotion for Barbie would go ahead. Where it's a difficult situation, isn't it, for your industry at the moment?
Well,
and for you?
well, I'm a 3 guild member. I'm a member of Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, and the Writers Guild. So, two of my guilds are on strike. I support them 100%. I mean, everything stopped. I'm here as a director because the directors made a deal, and everything sort of ground to a halt. And I think it's a moment of massive change, and I think there needs to be, obviously, writers, actors. There needs to be a living wage, and also there need to be protections of all these things that are changing just honestly before our eyes in terms of what capabilities of AI and everything else are, which I feel like I learn about daily.
Well, Simon Pegg last week, we were talking about his Mission Impossible film, but we were talking about AI there, and although his movie is about AI,
right?
In your industry, it's clearly seen as something to be extremely worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was actually just saying this in the hallway. I do feel like every day I find out what it does or can do because it keeps changing. I mean, I think it's something where, I don't quite know what to say about what it is. I mean, why I engage with art is because I want to see something that was made by another human being or a group of human beings, and kind of that they in some way are saying, here is how it looks to us, whether it's, making a song or writing a poem or making a movie. It's like from that vantage point and the specificity of that. And I think now where it gets confusing, and I don't have an answer for it, and I don't think anybody else does, is, but if these models, these AI models are trained on everybody, do they have all our souls already? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to this, and I don't think anybody does. So I couldn't tell you, but it's something where I think in the meantime, having protections and guardrails around industries are important as it develops, and then we'll see sort of where we end up. But I think that the last time there were a lot of strikes, they didn't even have a word for streaming. They called it, I believe, like new media. And it was important that they established some guardrails around this new media because, obviously it's wound up somewhere very specific. And I think, the guilds are always good at looking ahead and saying like, well, why don't we create some language here so that we're not just willy-nilly, letting our members and our workers go unprotected.
Greta Gerwig, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.